living Nipata Samba Nol College, Yoriziti, Carson Yala Damba Chiori, Samata Yala Damba Marita, Yala Damba, Nangayala, Chansawat and Chopawata, Dipasha Pasum, the Rotani, Tali Samba Nola, GC around Chepa, Ani GC around Ani, Yanga Limanda, so and the Patan, Mari GC around Chepa, Chumoko, Yanga Limanda, so and the Patan, Gamo Jet Yore.
So, and what we talked about were these so-called 7 branches, and the first few branches are covered in chapter 2, which are making offerings, paying homage or making prostrations, and then taking refuge in confession. And then the chapter 3 then talks about the remaining ones, rejoicing, requesting Dharma teachings, and then also requesting that Buddhas not to pass into nirvana, and then finally the dedication.
He gone the Liusamba knowledge Tepachi, Gimbachi, and the chance of Kasim Yonsa as they are Liusamba mean to Satita, Jigtala, Gawagumbachi, Kujocha, Jocha Kaldinore.
And then in the third chapter, which is on page 37, it starts. So on top of rejoicing in the virtue of others, and then requesting the Buddhas to teach the Dharma and not to pass into nirvana, and then and the dedication on top of then is then explained the practice of generosity, and taking the Bodhisattva vow, and then another final part of rejoicing in bodhicitta, which makes it 7 parts within the third chapter.
So Nanchu Jondoni China Pemasea for Ngoni Sarbatani Chinari, Jima Tamapani, and Yavle Chinkichinari, Tama to Colindom Theory, on Otantaniji. Jonjik the Tangoni Sarkajani China, Pemasea for it, and Talisa the Yamli Jana, we know Pemasea for it.
Yeah, so this text of Shantideva, the Bodhisattva Chariyatara, is said to be a text, equally very beneficial and helpful for those who are new to Buddhism, who are newly starting to study and finding an interest in Buddhism, but also for those who are already practicing Buddhism.
Called Nomba to so Karchili Yopa, Chance and Road and Chopa Bo and Road on any chance of the same Ziamandu, Paro the Chabachukan Yamli Ziamandu.
You say Dagashisu.
Ah, that's it.
Shisona, then Dagashisu. So now I have to connect it with the.
Maybe you do a hotspot?
Yes, I try, which worked once.
Yeah. Rika made it at the channel. Rika, you know,
yeah, Rika, you know, hello, we are back. There was a power cut again. Are you hearing us? Oh, yeah, perfect. Good. Okay.
Last, what any cheondi, Tanda Carla Gori Nonchu, which is on the number, so Carchili Yopa, Chance Toncho, Chopa Piton, Las Opa, Tinji Cork, Nonchu, Rotan Rot and Dinolo, Goya Pochi Segre, Nonchu Jani China.
Yeah, so for those studying Buddhism, the text gives very clear explanations of variety of Buddhist practices, such as prostrations and making offerings and so forth.
Last tani tiring jocha tanga so ligasambal jocha khad de yopino ni jocha tambote karrezina jisi ranche tondre.
So now, as the first part within the third chapter, it says here it is the practice of rejoicing in the virtue of others.
Tanda jisi ranche sa gesta tal jisi ranche na gawa gomiatri gawa gomsa gesta tal khasam shandu.
And generally speaking, rejoicing can be, understood in 3 ways. There are 3 things that things that we can rejoice in.
Nanchu gnal kewasam glamram ziachi or kewasam gnani dendro gewa dendro what chiche go ta ja in the last ani dendro tanda dendro gesta jisi ranwata Tarbi gel guest salaji siran chabatan tamchen can be gavalaji siran some share.
So we can again from the Buddhist point of view, we can rejoice in the marriage that creates a good rebirth in either the good states of existence, as a god or a human, then we can rejoice in the merit that creates or that leads to the liberation from samsara. And then we can rejoice in the virtue that eventually leads to full enlightenment.
That's what tanda telen tuning in give some Lharam Ziata Motron do Bichi.
And that's why I'm going to give a little overview. I'll introduce the practices of the three beings, of the beings of three capacities, as in the Lamrim.
And that's what not you nyawlim by Chenke Tanala. Give some Lharam Zeti me same come our Rixum Legiore.
So these three, beings with their three different practices, are related to beings' different mental capacities or inclinations.
Give chongos the Samlo the Kartangi origin and non chu killing yos in non-chu cherries, Kiwachima Pancho Tonda Cherries. Yena young, Nalagoya the Karizina, Kiwachima the Solo, Dendrolia Kiesona. Nandrolo Maki Masoni, Nandroli Tani, Dendroli Kesona, there's some going to do some sound of Chiore.
So the beings of small capacity, they, they're Buddhists, they have faith in the teachings and so forth, and what they aspire to is to avoid a rebirth in the lower states of existence, as an animal, hungry ghost, or a spirit, or a hell being. And then they wish, or they think it's fine, it's sufficient to be reborn in either one of the good states of existence as a god or a human.
That's what Tinoni, the Riti Yamle Karchi or Rezeti, Anga, Yoachamal Dendro Kenan Jikasangore, T gets at the Karchi or is the Magature Pond, Magature Pony, Gavachal Besto Chiata, T gets a get a chadiore.
And the virtue that leads to a rebirth in either one of the upper states or good states of existence is avoiding the 10 non-virtuous actions and making effort to practice the 10 virtuous actions.
Magiacha the Karzevor is in a legal goni sochopa machamba limba, loyam samre, Nakagoni Zentramat, some Nakel Jere, Iki Goni, Nasim, Nosim, Lochtazeni, Chutamba Jakiore.
So what these 10 non-virtuous actions are that the person then, that the practitioner then avoids is, avoiding the three negativities of the body, like killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. And then there are 4 negativities of speech that one, as a practitioner, then avoids, namely divisive speech, harsh speech, meaningless talk, and lying. And then there are 3 negative actions of the mind, covetousness, harmful intent, and wrong views.
Nasa tatip chati jambat so tes ko de borita lokta zide ad karze borizit lokta zide chulu kechari tat chulu chamali yosari rano so pena namba chik chulu lokta che gona legend yo mare konchosum yo mare nyawa kia yo mar layel kia yo mare so zumare jani saulo to lokta la ore.
So, wrong view here as the last one of these 10 non-religious actions. There are probably, types of wrong views, respective in each and every religious system. But here in the Buddhist context, what wrong views refer to is to not accept that there are past and future lives, not to believe in, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, or the 3 jewels, and not to believe in the working of karma that, or there's actions that lead to good rebirth or bad rebirth and so forth.
Tell Yanchi Coronachuli Gichakame and Nanchuli Savla Chakama, Tonachalotasia, Yanchumichi, Anchuli Kiaso and Rawachini, that is the Chumin, Shedi, Shishia Yora, or Lokta Tenichi Koriki, Yohamaris in Hambaja, Tenichi Matoyan, Juchakame says in a Kolota Layoma. Now she's at the Chuni Hamagora, or Teloktasia Yomari.
For someone who has no knowledge really about Buddhism, then thinking along those lines, it's not considered a wrong view as such.
The Yishichulu Tangato number the Tismanda such was a Yishichulu Kutanji Shilman the Nato Trabato Chigendro Captain Dilla. Akoso Yishichulu Tebamina, Techamala, Yawa Kendo, what is in the Kototanji Jendus, Asali Lasanam Dareta, Amataso, Kotola, being what in the children, Yishichulu Teba Yoniora, Kosal Malam Yaro, and the Chinita, Sechamala Yawa Kendo.
There seem to have been, some monks abroad in Christian countries, and what they sometimes were told by, old faithful people, old Christians. From their point of view, they would go tell the monks, well, if you don't believe in God or whatnot, you're going to be reborn in hell.
Hotel Saulo Tana Kodea, Satat Koso, Chulkana, Tanagato number ship, Lochta Tinsar, Tangazo Lochta General, Seriosara, Tangazo number Chin, Lochta Chansit, Inchumichi Chul, Keso Chekorem, because now Matani Jajana, Lochta Chin Lagomare.
Yeah, so from the Christian standpoint or viewpoint, then not believing in God and whatnot, then as a non-Christian, but nevertheless is considered a wrong view. But from the Buddhist point of view, if someone has another faith, or has no faith whatsoever, and therefore doesn't believe in rebirth and whatnot, it's not considered a wrong view.
Also, Tanda Gacha Chama pass on Tanda Magich Pony gave actually Yapo, but Suchi didn't send the Corochato count of Yapochetona, non bichu munition, a Techamal Dendro Yeto.
But yeah, so if there is a practitioner who has faith and then makes effort to avoid these so-called 10 non-religious actions and makes effort to practice the positive actions, then that would be creating the causes or the karma for being born in a good state of existence next time around. So that's the manner in which the beings of small capacity practice.
Takio Junga Samlozia the Carres, the Kio Junga Samlozia in Corvazia to Mojagore, the news on the Deja Cachatlegore, Corvazit Carizena, not so late on Yomongo, Kencharan around me, Corajab Denit, Daily Targo Samgore.
So then we come to the beings of middling capacity. They want to achieve liberation from cyclic existence altogether. So they see that the cause for being born in samsara is karma and the afflictions, and then they want to overcome karma and afflictions and thereby rebirth in samsara altogether.
Otatin Koratinali Tardo Nemjon Zeat Goring, Nemjon Zeatel Karzegorizena, Pena Zomba Chik Zonkanal, the Tinima Chita Karma Chita Tizo Chile on Zonkan, Dendo Meni Chalo Tando Yopanajan, also Koral Tandati Korajab Deniti, Nimachita Tizo Chita Karma Chian Demando per Tilitarni Tarba Combotomna Tomnas and Bisalo Chimbo Chilena, Telingem Jongulo Deore.
And so a person of middling capacity then, has to develop really this strong sense of renunciation, just like a prisoner, who's imprisoned. They wouldn't want to be stay in prison for even a minute longer. They want to get out. And just like that, a person of middling capacity who has that sense of renunciation, any moment, any minute, they want to get freedom from, this cyclic existence.
Atang Nemjon Tatanyamda, Tombani Tobi Shirap the Gomni, then you Gombayan Terchansona, and it had be Yomo Bazia the Pony, Tabi Combo Tobiore.
And then a person who has that strong sense of renunciation, conjoined basically with the wisdom or the wisdom of emptiness, they then will be able to they will be able to overcome the afflictions and thereby eventually achieve liberation from cyclic existence. Yeah, so that these are the beings of middling capacity, or the stages of the path of those of middling capacity.
Tinyam the Tomba Nigum, Chinchukanyam Chevalatini, Sanji Componcho with some gore.
Nejong Tompani?
Nyanjong Gore, Chanchuk Gore, Tomba Nigore, Parota Chimbachu.
Janchu Senyang.
Go to go here, Chimba.
Yeah.
Tang is Simcha Tamchak Cheto, Nyanjonch, Chanchuk Simch, Tomba Tobi Shiroch, Tani Gimbata Satrolas of Parchantric, the Sonyam Chini, Sanji Componcho.
Yeah. So, and then we have the beings of great capacity. Those are the ones who want to achieve not just liberation for themselves, but they think, well, they keep all the other counter sentient beings in mind. They say that or they aspire for liberation and full enlightenment of all sentient beings. So they, on top of having this strong sense of renunciation, they also meditate and familiarize themselves with the insight of or wisdom of emptiness. And then, of course, give rise to bodhicitta, the spirit of enlightenment, and then practice accordingly. Practice these 6 perfections, and when they have perfected these, they will eventually then achieve full enlightenment not for their own sake, but for the sake of all sentient beings.
numbers que chuchen que candichi na parchi tosumgun mandawa tesumgun on yali chenke chire tendichu machena yon nachu rawachi strasigi yo mare
Yeah, young man.
ke chungi nyawle che yon nan ri yon na chembu nyawle tendichu macheni chiche dewa na strachu sig mare nanchu cheze mare.
Yeah, so one can say that, as a Buddhist practitioner, one generally falls in either one of these categories. Either one is a practitioner of the small capacity, middling, or great capacity. Then it's a tick. Yeah. So, and although of course doing positive actions and so forth, they are of course very beneficial. But if one does them only for the sake of this life, to achieve happiness and good outcome for this life, it's strictly speaking actually not considered a Buddhist practice or Dharma practice.
Sonsa, tanda de logisi yaranchena gawa gomiatero, te chesato, yana kiyo chungi lam nyamle chenketa logisi yaranche, yana kiyo njangi lam nyamle, yana kiyo chimbu lam nyamle, te sole, gersi chimbo javala ki jisi yaranche gain sunguyore.
Yeah. So here now in this, the first part within the third chapter, when it speaks about rejoicing in the virtue of others, it then, here Shantideva says that we can rejoice in, all the virtue or the merit these beings create in the beings of small, middling, and great capacity.
So
Geshe, we are going to cover these, kind of like in a concise form. We don't go through each and every detail or each and every verse.
Pendochimbo Yozore, Napjangaso Gavalici Ranch, Gavalici Ranch, the Jamba Gavalici, Soso Gawa Gongore, De Gomba Langazo Kalikuni, Yamagoni, Gesta Hajachimbo Saga, Yakshuchi, the Gavalici Ranch.
So it is explained that, by rejoicing in the virtue of others, it's the best means, for oneself to accumulate virtue. Without really working hard, just by rejoicing, we can. If we rejoice wholeheartedly in the good things that others do, we thereby, accumulate so much merit ourselves.
What Tatani Jisi Yaron chest on the Tendite, Naja Genda Narsundo Tite, Mijambali Yapochon, Mijamba Gestajoat, Ketoni Yapondo, Carintona Gava, Soso Telagawa, Cum Choto Chemati, Condro Chemati, Magawa Chemati, and Soso Semka Potendelina, Sechamal Salomata, Sentelina. So
whenever we see, other people, around us doing something positive or something good is happening to them, it's good then, to really wholeheartedly rejoice without getting jealous or angry or, having any sense of dislike or what. But if you, are able to fully and wholeheartedly rejoice in others' goodness or good deeds and good things that happen to them, we can thereby create a lot of virtue ourselves and future lives aside. But in this life, we'll have positive outcomes.
Last me, Penda was Jana Soso Pugenda was Leka Yahachirena Soso Kipoyongo. Kipoyonga the cool Leka Telengaso Gawa Gungu and Naso Kipochakare. Pundri, Soso Pundri Leka Yapochino, Soso Shuchi Kivero, the Kiot Kuleka Telagawa Gungu.
We can imagine, if we have a child, for example, if the child does something really well, we naturally feel happy and rejoice.
So Magas has a Katandichi Yapon is John and Chato so Sema Makipazo, Sonsa Geogomato Sonsa.
Yeah, but if, like, for example, if we come across someone we don't like and they do something good or something good happens to them, then we easily feel jealous. And then actually, then that only creates difficulties for us, right? We feel miserable or unwell. So it's very clear that, if we rejoice in others' good deeds, we feel happy. But if we feel, like jealous, for example, then that makes us feel miserable.
tonda chun chun de chili jambana patina tonda chun chun ro chi yoro te jideng te so te lale ter de na nyamle che de na sem kan ma jelo chang pe pen do chimbore
So we can train ourselves, kind of, we can train and familiarize ourselves. If we even see small things, people doing small good things, we can, train ourselves, as it were, to rejoice, and that, makes our minds automatically feel more, relaxed and at ease and peaceful.
Also tan gwala jisi ron corner te tenite chi yin
Oh, so yeah, that's sort of what I wanted to say about the part of rejoicing.
jisi ron korla musi twanda yo
Are there any questions, particularly regarding the topic of rejoicing?
I did have a question about merit. Because Geshe said in the beginning that you gained merit in 3 different ways according to the 3 levels of the path. So the first part was the non-virtue and virtue. I'm assuming that the higher path, the advanced path, was practicing the 6 paramitas. But what is it for the middle path? What are you practicing? Is it the meditation?
Okay.
Yeah.
Di kiwo sum ra chungu ting dang chenbo kiwo chungu de tsula zo kasa mige chu pongore chu kasa gewa chu lam
chu te nyamle chi
ani kiwo chenbo de tsula parchin tuk tu so pale
parchen chu chancho ksem ngenjong ombani to
ani kiwo ting de tsula
kiwon jungala ngenjong je ja chi ten yan su tombani to bishira ta ngenjong ni cha chu ni do na parchen jenjo
yeah, so the beings of middle incapacity would, primarily practice or familiarize themselves with renunciation and the wisdom of emptiness.
And that's how they earn merit.
And kasa ngejong dang tongpani gom la tene susu koran su gewa sakyo.
koro gewa sani nyomo baziat panto ore kita ni jet so lele ore ta ni jet so yo ra da to su nyamlen jakayo mar timela su nyamlen de ngenjong de pala san nanda chi ya po chi gore ti gon tomba ni topi shirap to gom ni ro jana ni ya so ni samchi le tim nyomo panto ore
Yeah, so of course they also, practice compassion, but that's not the main factor. Mainly, really, they practice, in a sense, renunciation and the wisdom of emptiness, and thereby gradually will be able to overcome their afflictions. Yeah.
I guess I was hung up on the word merit. Because for me, merit is like doing certain activities, like make offerings for merit.
And all
And
the
then when he says that the actual practices you merit, I guess I just wasn't associating that as a way to gain merit.
kasi ponsu Sonam sagyo nyamlen la tene. Ini ko samson Sonam saya di digi chero chikchang chuba pugare givele
no
damda.
that's what re tanda ngonjo gutni ta yore ta yerdani da changza an choban pa tanda yala dambalas yala jimba so jenda chegur su ta tanda keon jangla la tomba ni tobi shira tere ombot yimbari tomba ni ngozengora tomba ni ngoz so to sonsa tenim sonte ko su ta tomba ni tobi shira kanjang gomja so nyomo pon chetere mung semja jang che ke samlo tang yomar so ta tar sonan ri sonsa tomba ni tobi shira de gona tomba ni to ki to arshi ngosam da to at komba kamet personi ani pasho di danza mame pachani parshi danza me pachan ni tarba to zyatere
Ini ya lang shemba yang jigro chipa pulcha.
choba ta ngondo ore
Yeah. So the other, like you mentioned, for example, making offerings to create merit and so forth. These other kind of branches that as part of the 7 branch offerings that one can make as a preliminary practice.
Okay.
But Geshe repeat that. But the main thing these practitioners focus on is the renunciation and meditation on emptiness. And first they have an intellectual or like a conceptual understanding, and then that evolves into a direct perception of emptiness, and thereby
las tani ni pal mandro inda
Okay, then we continue with the second part.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So I have a question about what it means to practice something like joy, because if I see someone get married and I feel jealous, I don't know how to practice joy. I mean, I can try to fake joy, but that's not real joy, right?
Yeah.
Then I'm just faking it. So I don't know. I mean, I I don't understand what it means to practice a feeling when I feel like I can't control it, you know. Does that make sense?
공 가사 가와 칸데스건 그래. 가이스 가와
가고.
미셴바다 저 배샤 공 앞서서나 미셴바 장사기 앞서나 브라 부모 장사기 앞서나 공다 직세나 삼삼 닝 타파네 가와 검야 요마레 이네 공 차적지기래. 다 세상 가와 뭐네 검다 칸데스 검 토크레 가이스 타도 샤게
기타단다 지시랑 제사도 파쇼 고제티랑 게사지 연구해. 장사 자와다 소지 게사이 남나미시 인카보라와 수도 파쇼고 게위레지 제너로 그 삼바잠보 제기요나리 밀펜 토저고요나리 아니 다 게와 하코라 오 tindigu riktal gawa komni gawa komzena semtani watati pe mse ya poji chonsa samni semta pa soso usani saulo tangora talishik jab gore mato te soso ge tanz te ma chena yung marta soso ngoni choni te yakporwas pasho ko tindi chia pasho le deki yung gore tangi tel gawa gomna ngare yon deki yung gore ngaso thamale ki boyon ya ki kiriasani kimse jam saulo tantani ni gom gore
Geshe, because you mentioned a wedding, right, when someone gets married. But Geshe says that, you know, if getting married is not necessarily anything, you know, like virtues that someone does. It's rather, you know, if someone, I don't know. Someone. Yeah, if someone does really something beneficial for someone else, you know, some wholesome work which really is beneficial to others, or develops the good heart, you know, is very kind. You know, something like this one, but it's not to say that it's easy then to rejoice. But, you know, then we have to come in and you know, apply reasonings and then think along the lines that, you know, by rejoicing, feeling wholehearted, you know, joyful about others' good deeds, that also has a positive effect on us. But it's something we have to familiarize ourselves with slowly.
Last teacher la chiche son pena miji ke pasho le nya segiyo na nya zam son akiga kenya chi zam top son sam ni tendil tsawani ni sa yo mare parisi di pasho le dugpa che ore dugpa la gawa gomna dugpa chandro ore chi ke nya segiyo ra tangi ta di o kenya chi zam to son akiga sa re pasho ko matal pen ton an ki ga go ya chi ora tendri ko mar ke so che ore dugpa la ke ga gom ze de te magya chandro ore son sa chansa ta so la gawa gomna chi chena Lomaten chandro yona. Pasho lekate lomaten legisi ranchina lomaten chandro. Mageva legisi ranchina mageva chandro. Geva legisi ranchina geva chandro.
Then Geshe gave another example. For example, say we see someone who is fishing, you know, in order then to sell the fish or what. But you know, if we then say, oh, we rejoice in the person, you know, fishing and then selling the fish on the market or what. But that's actually rejoicing in a, you know, from the Buddhist point of view, a negative action, and then it becomes actually negative. It becomes non-virtue. And then coming back to the example of the wedding, we can probably consider that as a neutral activity, which then neither creates virtue or non-virtue.
That's fine. Allah Tenita ngani nipa de karizina chungo kwa ta nyanga limanda so ande pa ni tre ta ni te li la pori chungo kwa zina chocho gyawa sitan chipa sangi tamchali ya son de chini ta nga so le chu son ro chi zini tni ya son de cha te nyama ta ba tri chena ngusta je sar khamar ta te ya nga so le sonung go ya po sa ka yore ze gore
Yesu
ngusta nga so sangi de chance ba ji to mara ta yo sam ni so go sangi de chance pa yo sam ni te so la ta so then yaran bochel teju piata so lamal o teju marta sonchu jat chungo kwa tre te so sonro chizeni aje gorita te la inda mo so sonchu ti jenro at marta o te re te mana nabje sangi ta chacha se pat so yo san te so le chu sonro chizeni sem ta pani so ande pata chichi ni sangi ta chacha se pat so nyanga limandani gomba mazoni semcha gatonde yerimbo jigrochi zeni so ande patini la chungo kwa tam nyanga limandawa so ande panitere adani lila pare.
Yeah, so then the next two parts are fairly easy. It's requesting the Buddhas to teach the Dharma and requesting them to not pass into nirvana. And so here, when we request the Buddhas to teach the Dharma, we can imagine, all the Buddhas from the 10 directions all around us, and to please, turn the wheel of Dharma to please teach. And of course, we can't see them directly, but say, for example, if we request, our teachers, such as His Holiness, if we would, make direct requests to him to teach us, that would fall into that, requesting the Buddhas to teach the Dharma, and then, and then requesting. And then requesting the Buddhas not to pass into nirvana would be to request, to beseech them, or make supplication prayers for them not to, to be around and not to pass into nirvana. And an example for that would be also to offer a long life puja, long life puja to His Holiness.
Tate ngabata trikpa yala danga ngaba trikpa o tingi ro chire tingi ko de ponjire ta namba chi yimbi chani sangi ta chancha se pa la soncho sonro chi zeata nyanga limanda ka gyabji ro chi tinji sonde china nga so sonum so chembo chi sa yi chi chi yore.
And these, branches, if we, request the Buddhas not to pass into nirvana and to keep on teaching and so forth, then, by doing so, we ourselves create quite a lot of merit.
Oh yeah,
and then so that's coming up is the 7th branch, which is then the dedication of merit.
Ani gewal GC ranche onari chungo ko agta nyanga limanda so ande pa tendigo karche yona tin tsola tso gewate semchang che ta pha ngoya tare.
So here when we make dedications, we think of all the merits that we have done, all the merit that we have created by doing prostrations, making confession of our negativities, offerings, rejoicing in the virtue of others, then requesting the Buddhas to teach and not to pass into nirvana. So we think of all these merit and we dedicate them to the benefit, or for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Andal chik chatani ki chani dodo chini ngotong chita yang jil ma jani so jabar ngotong nindu tinani ki chani ngotong de karzena ta dagi gewa kaze saja gersa kaze yopat ngangaro chipo le chimal deki yon zamayimbar Kajab Kasemcha, Tamchal of Deki Yon, Gerasho, Sani Sambata Saulo, the Givango, Chire, teach anymore. Chertoni. Duduchi Walma, Nebagachet, the Zando, the Chetalma Jago.
So, like in generally speaking, we can, think of all the merit that we have created, all the roots of virtue, and dedicate them not for our own sake, but for the, all the countless sentient beings.
Last one, you bet that Chetal Madia on the Napa Chet, we are more touching to that. Napa the Sola, Menda, Membatan, Neola Sopacar, Gogiona, Coso Gesta, the So we get your so young the Sola, Nepata, Membata, Gest, Tansion, Neola Sopa, Cheto, the River, shows in Chimoa, the Chigresha, Nepichet was.
And then there's another type of way we can dedicate. We can think of specific things that we, make a dedication for, or we can imagine, that, or wish for that our roots of virtue, that not susurang.
No, susurang, member and men that the Kerashos and I guess Ali Kerashos, and my own shows.
That our roots of virtue may become the medicine for those who need, may become the nurse for those who need a nurse, and may become the doctor for those ill people.
Last what any the water ta semche zaya tan toya marawa ta so chel ta sola na zama tan toya na so pala so ku gesa te ze worta gesa te pa shola zaya ta toya rawa ta thana so yon te so zaya tan toya ge kirwa tan ji ge kirshi ko seni mola ja ni pa ta chingdu.
And then another form of prayer we can make is that, we wish for our roots of virtue to become the food and the drink for those who are thirsty and hungry.
Tani the water yan jo chil karin dogun jo vi tan do se di ona tan dupando chire counter same chat to sol kangi kare yo na zaya mesal zaya koya mesal koyan kamba mesal kamba la sopagta kare gona ti jiskel koro gewa sa de at tel jehmoni jimat sol dopa nanji yon ag shozeni ngwa chire sha tam dona so gesta to pa shol kare go yo na te nanji jingjaga ge jekerchi sani salo ta tere do tsadina.
But in brief, we can imagine that all our virtues, wish that all our virtues become anything really, anything that beings may need, in terms of food, drink, clothes, shelter, and whatnot.
Otendi te so gesta te semcha thamcha pa semcha thamcha ge gendra mandra kerchi zeni ngwa cha da nambi china lo jongze gore nyamle cheto. Tendi chena so gesta te so kila chi chika me kiri ni jambal tandro reason tendi mares. Telita gesta te yam pani ranja kanga gesta ta pendo ko jenjen ro reason ni tendi ngonze chege gore. Shambala pendo gore so le pendo ko munge so kyonra tendi tani ni me patanda tup chembo pandro.
Yeah, so from the Buddhist point of view, we are not losing out by doing so, by dedicating our virtues for the benefit of others. It's good for them, but it's also a way of increasing our merit, and we don't lose out. We benefit from that too.
Tawa tenen da tanda chancho sem go lo gyon yin sonsa ko chancho se pa ji che ye ze sonsa chancho se pa ji na ran li jan chi pa ze ta sa lo tango ran li jan chi pa yin na ran li jan ge che ta sa lo chi tanto amana tani chancho se pa yin ze ta zuman zi yin sonsa lo gyon te ji ma che ran che re ni ba te che go go re chancho sem gi ran jan li jamba chimba zengora sonsa kongi chani na gesa ina re tonda karge chetina janle saulo tanki chi go yore chancha sepa ina gaji ke osam gna ke trashor tere de ora achon di chancha sepa zia de ke chembotre ta ke chongo tam ran de so tendi saulo tama to nan de kore so ke sang saulo ina gesa te chancha sepa gesa te chia tsi yore
yeah, so I mean, this is
yeah,
so that all is part of the practices of a bodhisattva. Has developed bodhicitta. Wishes to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of others, and then for bodhisattva, it's natural to at least regard others as equal to oneself, and in Karayina Chibayina yang
Jando Bajiku Cheto Gore. Tangi part Saulo Tanto Gore, Mangagi Jando Chizia the Zuma Chadagora.
Yeah. And whatever a bodhisattva does is for the sake of others. If a bodhisattva, so-called bodhisattva wouldn't, consider others as equal and important, or even more important than work for them, then that would be just mere words, wouldn't be true.
Geshe yarang ta chungo kwa ka nyangali manda swande ba ngowate tenchon tanda ligo samba go chocha samde ligo ni ba go choban ba chansewa chungo dupa sha pa samde yan na yala den de tel ze gore yala dambat yala dambat ta zore.
So now anyway we talked
even the knowledge
yeah. So now we talked about the 4 branches within the 3rd chapter, in rejoicing, requesting the teachings, and requesting the Buddhas not to pass into nirvana, and then dedication, and then on together with those covered in chapter 2, the offerings and making homage, then that completes the 7 branches.
So tani tanda to chancho tanda to chancho se pinyam le jarete so gesa cha to so se chamal dendro kewa ta tarbat yo patandi ge chet ngona anjing ge rezena ge reta to so anchu ge chani chena gesa to chori pndo reze wore ngaro ji ma ke po yon vigel ngo zeni ngwa chena so ge wa cha to so ke po yon ke 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 ro sho ze ngwa chena ge yo rezena ge yo yana yang gesa to chori ndo ngonze che yore
CD
taki nojin semcha tamcha ge chet mazeni so ge chet lam nan ge yore yana gesa tsi yore teo so jima dendro le ki ger ngo la jana rindu kori na gesa chongin do tsi yore.
It's up to us. As we mentioned before, it's according to one's capacity. It's perfectly all right also to make dedications of one's use of virtue for achieving good rebirth in next life, but it's less meritorious, as it were, compared to the higher ambitions.
Tani yala den the zoxon yala den ranj yanjo to under ayo.
Now that the 7 branches are complete, are there questions related to that, to the 7 branches? Yeah.
So the way I guess she was explaining the dedications seem quite specific. Like especially what's written here.
Yeah.
But I understood that we should always dedicate, I mean, if we're on the trying to be on the Bodhisattva path, that we should always dedicate for full enlightenment. So are we doing both this more general dedication and the specific one?
Yeah.
Or like, do we pick and choose?
Ko samso sanan gatsu jangchu sembe lam ra la kewo chembo dang nang shin nyamnen chia tapsi sibaina tene ngoe susuki gewa ngoe kapsu namgin lang shin jangchu toya kichiro ngoa chiguro ine di kapsu papa tanda becha nang lo la mixeki ra susuki men chayaki neyok member chayaki tene shat kare jangchu kichiro yangmena dam chi kasa di
Amte kare reze wata
ya mixeki chira nyamdu kare
tam dorna chanchup thomna ya che goya ta kare zena semchang ton che atro ta khati gesa thama semchang ton de semchang la kang kare yona ta se vigel mo ge sem do zena ta pa wongor ta ko pa te zhib chan ro chi she yore ma tum dor dina semchang la kang kare yona pena ne pa ta chi pa ta za mara so ze at zhib chan ro chi ni ma ko de an she re mum dor dina semchang la kang ka ze yona te kang te se vigel ro sho zeni ngo yor
die inchimenchi mixegi chiro da ngomarbe
musile tindi ngogo mareya ngona ndikere tamako ni kichani ngona nabya ngwa mancheza chi kichani ngoja khora semcha dikki kirchi zenitini ngoja otindi nandikor ejupcha chene na tagasi jawala majupcha chene sonsa rando suzo nijupcha chene andikor kirsa ta shiba me sama
I guess it's up to one how one wishes to frame it or phrase it or so. But I mean, as but like you rightly said, it's if one wishes to or is wishes to achieve enlightenment eventually in practice as a bodhisattva, then whatever virtue we do or create, then we dedicate them or the virtue for all sentient beings and to be free from suffering and to achieve happiness. If we want to make it more detailed, then I understand it to mean it's fine, but we can also frame it like more generally, like what you said, dedicating it for full enlightenment, which means we dedicate it for the alleviation of suffering of sentient beings and their happiness.
Fill in the detail.
Yes,
when we have
the inspiration
and the same chariri kangel salo tona so tan ne patal kanindri tegori tigel kirchu on the chokoto de ni to so chet ndri kangel tegori tandri chini jipcha ma salo tona seble choshik che ayogiri.
If one thinks about like specifically a suffering being or specific people or beings in a difficult situation, then that might be then creating. I mean, might be easier to feel it, to have the emotion. Paolo, any question?
Not at the moment, but I let you know if I do.
Okay.
Tandi jocha tanda samban chim liu samban nang jocha tombo jitan joni ta ngapa tel gimba korchi shindu. And
then so as the next point within the 3rd chapter is it says here abandoning attachment to the body or in Geshe's words it has to do with the practice of generosity.
Ta gimba zediat karse gorzeti ta chi chani gimba zediat ko kyat jen la chi teatre ta na chu na chi na keton chani chi na gimba tel chu gi gimba zanzo go gimba maji bi gimba som ro shindu.
So generally speaking, when we hear generosity in Buddhism, we have 3 types. We can offer material things to others. We can offer or give fearlessness, and then we can give the Dharma.
So tati nani tombo sanzu go gimba zediat li ton lo kyo tan yatre Liton Lokyo Zena Soso Zupo, which has Gimbatana, Ritim and the Gichala Peshala Sopa, Zayantoya Kari Gimbatana, Tel Zanzangu Gimbala Ore.
So the first type of generosity is the generosity or giving of material things. That includes indeed our own body, or any food, drink, whatever, any material necessities.
No, Nipatal Magic Bijamba Ziachi, Magic Bijambat Mancha that answer solid diet as they were partial concession jig dig what it tinjing machini, ya soft of jat, Latin Magic Bijamba they were Ketan Koro sort the Koro what in Nicola Saucer by Chichia, Chipachikan is on the Sokojamba Magic Bijamba. No, call the soldiers up and change your knowledge chandra ora. Ne solomachina ko so mea chandra ora. So that the sodium batsiore.
And the offering of fearlessness can be understood to mean, we sometimes see in English animal liberation. If you see animals bound to be slaughtered, and they lose their life, I mean, they might be in a fearful state or what. And then if we free them, then it's alleviating or freeing them from their fear.
Anthony, Sambatal Chuki Jambata, Tangaso Sut the Mangaso Chushi and Rotindico, or Rangason the Chete, Chuki Jamba in Bikachari.
So, and then we have the third type of generosity is the giving of Dharma. So, what we are doing here would be one form of Dharma.
Telling it is a genitros, Tangason the Nazo Popa National and Zanda Toy Kabla, Lacha Malia, Lixo Chimbochi, Tichigachina, Tata Socha Hamconi, machine, Tetsocha is Harisam with Tetsota, Savani Maranzo Sandwich, Chugim Bandage on Sami, Chigalachana, Mogoni singing Kayona, so Jedore Machimena, Jedore, Samiona, Jeona, Cationa, Jedore, Tasa, Gate Sogiantarari, and Machix on the Galanal, Pichero Roches in a Yazet, Younger merchant on a Yazet, Younger Lachachi or Mariteon, Machinita, Chiamara, and Jimariteon, Corrosion.
So now from the in Tibetan culture, it's very common. To freely teach if one is requested, not for any salary or so, for any financial reasons. And also in the monastery, for example, if there's just one person requesting teaching from their teacher, then they will freely share whatever they know. If it's just one student, if it's 2, 3, 4 more, whatever, doesn't make any difference really. And there's usually no kind of payment involved. They do it freely. Says that I think he heard that some, because it's not so common in the Western culture, and some people might think, well, here in Chile or elsewhere, this person is teaching the Dharma without any salary or any payment. They probably don't know the Dharma so well. That might be the opinion people have, but it's absolutely not the case. Yeah.
Tenito Maringa, Jola Sashi, Tandila Jassi Chimboja Lago, Nicago Jumba de Carizita, Lit on Lonkiot and Gesta some Jumbatel, Son Jandu, Capsapa. Luta Lonkiot, Corongo gave it out.
So here what Shantideva describes or talks about is the giving of one's body, then resources and the roots of virtue. That's what he touches on.
Tandilema. Tonsar the Carizita, Lit on Tevja Lonkiot, and Tiso Gesa Tamcha, Simcha Kingi Tortripcha, Palme Patancha, the Takorongo, Zupo Yanari, Ani Chalala Sopa Yanari, Numa Tisum Zitting Woman, that amount Palasajan, Gesa Ina, Tuzo Tama Kisina Sani, maybe Simcha Tamcha stage at the Yan Zianrich.
As Shantideva says in verse 11, in verse 11, Without any sense of loss, I shall give up my body and enjoyments, as well as all my virtue of the 3 times, for the sake of benefiting all.
Lasso tani Karache ke jamba tangwa karaje tacha tang nyangandi dolo nyangandi per jobsiti tangi karache ne sanje tam nyangalindi pa tan tandi compound nyangalindi pa zat sanje compound da chombi compound la orita nyangan zete ati dingar labjagni dingar li tharwi chetange che gores te chewala jambi parcha zogo gores jambi parcha tawala soso li long kyo gesta la so pa chama pa me pa tan thonye chi gore ma to jambi parcha zokto yo ma sonza Gersi Chambo Javala, the really long Yotama poem, Patanja, the Carrezena, Jimmy Parchet Zovichetri. Jimmy Parchet Zozena, Jimmy Parchet Yapon, Te Jimmy Parchet Zomatumna, Sanji Compound Toyoma. Santa Jimmy Parchet Zovichetri, Samatanja Riens.
Okay, so what Shantideva is saying is that, it's good to make the offering of one's body and one's resources and one's virtue in order to perfect the generosity to perfect the perfection of generosity, to complete the practice of generosity, without which one cannot achieve enlightenment.
Last one, that in Sonsa, Thomas himself, Champion the Patanja Riens, that on Sonsa and then Karashi was it Tangi, Litan Long and I guess that's how much on yourself, John. The Tani Zonte, not same Changa Chasari, Nichalayan, same Chatham Changa Chasaris, and the Table Yangoris, and Garonda Nichala Sama, same Changaris. Chesarians.
And then Shantideva goes, what does he say? Then he also.
Ni litan loncho sama semchen le tan science o ta mandisha me litan loncho sama semchen le tan science sonza tani zonde ni litan ngaru mare semchen gres ni loncho yo ngaru mare semchen gres gesa yo ngaru mare semchen gres sama ta pa te pa lutan.
And then Shantideva goes on to say that he basically, mentally has, offered, he has given his body and virtue and all to the 2 sentient beings already, and then it's theirs basically.
Sonza semche temche koro deki gechita nga se samna kyoroso se shos nga don samna don shos tanga mera tan samna mera tan shos.
And it goes on to say then having given this body up for the pleasure of all sentient beings, by killing, abusing, and beating it, may they always do as they please. So he's saying that, as he has given up, his body to sentient beings already, then if it makes them happy to, kill him or beat him or what, they're free to do whatever they want.
Tatani tapachi jochat so much bandism. Do Sedina, Naro Semcha Temchel pa Lipo da Chipa Tansa Sonsatan is on Tingarungu Lipo Chashil Goya Yonari. Ani soso chensa kansa tsemosia chen nanji chena che shos ngal chekam me kyosol kyoronga tsemosia che sana den tsingen balapsa che sana yopol ki sana tan dordina kyosol gopa kariona te nanji che shota ngi lutanga ngi kyuni kontroza andra maga andra tnisani ni cheme zeate teresha.
And he also says that, as he's given up his body to sentient beings already, they can play with it. They can use it as a servant.
Takar gonas semchala don samna se samna tu samna yopo che samna ani zpo chashi ji konin ro san shaza samna kar che samna tsama ngi gimba tan sai son sa kyor so lon chains aso alu znyoni sharle sa ta alu tanga so top samna papa ko sana nga so gro te no ji tang ngi kyor so tan sai kyor so kar che samna che shos.
It's like, when we obtain a potato, we can do to eat it. We can peel it, cook it, do whatever with it, and then consume it. And likewise, Shantideva has given his body to sentient beings, and so likewise he says, you do whatever you please, do whatever you like with it.
Tani tal gesta the gesta ti atrola mandro kwandrisha tala muni nawa nga to me ma chi ti tatani zonti kyorso ngal muni chi kyorso semba ma chi pandra ta tandi stawa ni ma yon shos anton di kyorso ma ki bandra tandi stawa ni ma yon shos ni ma la chi chi afsha tatani yongra Tangalamuni controsa, Tsipaza, Magawa, Tachi, Makipachi, Yora, Tandisawani, my shows. They are Yaboji Koso. Tam Mitso, Shantideva and Toyondi, Makipata, controsa, Tandisawani, Contoyondi, Kosol, Kipo, just kill and draw shows there.
And then he also makes the wish, that whenever sentient beings see him, that would should never give rise give rise to anger in them, but whenever they see him, they should feel happy and whatnot.
Nita Lonkyo could get the Tata Gita so that George Chipandore, that Nalam Kosa and Dino Karshes, the Gotia Mesa in Gotia Cheshos, Gun Mesa and Gun Cheshos, any lamb machine in a lamb chepata, any chill parking in a Chizi chepata. Ani mambo chisha tata so chikban sakyapon na sakyanko londo na lo no nimaldo na nisata tata sondo na tatso ta yopoko na yopota takita chikbare karan chigina mokyo kar kor goya kar yona tin noj chinja pa shozeni tata so molam chanjare chikban tonda chikban do.
Yeah, and then he goes on like in verse 18, may I be a protector for those without one, a guide for those for all travelers on the way. I mean, it's all, along the same lines, he wishes to be anything of use, or anything which is of use to sentient beings, a bridge, a boat, a ship, and so forth.
Titam cheli gachewa tata the titam cheli the gata niguchi wall chitata.
Gyarani.
Sasom John Chimboda, Namkajan the Taparian Semcha Pot me by Namon Yensu, Jian Shaw, the Ater in the consumption of Molam Shuja and the Tingas or Musi and Jesha. Carzitis, Sasom John of Jet on Namkatin Nayora. Or Tatum at so Semcha Tamcha, the Tatal at so make Tapchachi, the Orestin on the Chashi Chingman, Semcha Chias also to Mari Semcha Samatil Tindia Naj, Nayan Semcha Tamcha, the Tat Tita number Kent, 10 days ago, Pentor job to attend Jura shows in Molam Chigawore.
And then we find a quite famous verse that His Holiness often recites as well, verse 21 on page 44. Which reads, just like space and the great elements such as earth may always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And then Geshe says that, we have the 5 elements, earth, water, fire and wind and space, and which are, the elements that all sentient beings always rely on or depend on. And then Shantideva makes the wish to be, to be those to always support sentient beings.
Tata Tani Chadandro Mugotamdur Dina Jimbi Corteshe or Nabi na Chutan Zamajibi Gimbasam Ganandi Kabla, so the Litan Lokyo Tangesta Getandila Shagandu Tata Gesta Soma Litan Lokyo La Sopa Soso Soma Tajimba Jimbi Pashinyamli Chinkachina, Su Semnoni Lutango war. Partially Lenke Yoma Yoli Cabariyoma, Jimbi Parching Winning Yamli in the Semnoni, Sala currently going and straight tops of Sangol House of Nantaka. Sena Zawani may patch go over. Tell the Jimba winning ones that the Yon and recorded, any Pashoni, Gwenye Yon and recorded, men and recorded, Siragwenye Omara, each alata so go is in the so Gwenye Sayo. And Naru Semna is still going to dance of some Gusam Namta to go over a Jimbi Patch, Yamli Chinker. I didn't know Jimba Chonchi Tanki, so Pachala, go moching Mato Martin, Hosan Telepan, Pentona Sam Jimba, Sena Cunichio, Sena Chesona, Jimbi Condro, Marnaji. So the chances about the so Jimba Najan the Cheto Marti Jimba, this is Richetora, Cheto Cups, lots of Namta called Pentor show something, the Cheto at Ketchambore.
Yeah, so we talked about these different types of things we can make an offering of, of our body, of resources, material things, and our virtue. But what's most important, Geshe says here, is that it has to come from from the heart. It has to be our mental attitude to be willing to give anything to any beings. I mean, it's a question of like my Zen, if that's useful to others. But I mean, I have to have the wish, the determination, to give it to others. If to be ready to give. Any
to Gwenye's Chimena, so Semani goes as you need part of dance of some good. Tati Jimba Pachanyamli, get a chimbo so Kijashi or not that not so the Cheto Mara. Tangarso Cheto at there's a chain ion, also Nantak, I shall paint on us and the same top bunny chair, same name Pachikure.
Yeah, we shouldn't have any sense of miserliness or but do it out of wholeheartedness or wholehearted altruistic attitude, and that's all about the perfection of generosity. To have that really the intention, the wholehearted wish. Now, of course, we are not maybe at high level bodhisattva yet who has that perfected, but.
Reso. Reten dorje di ona nachu ka inare semba sama zoat kechembo shuri. Nachu nyamle zya de semba girchu ta ya tablam chire mong cholo kori girchu chikan tang to mar nachu nyam. Ra inchu menchu semba girchu ta ni soso kepo che ya tablam chi sa ka tina semba sama zoat ha chang kechembo re.
When generally speaking in Buddhism, it's all to do with the mind. We can't change the outer environment really, but what we have to change, or where we can change, is our own mind and our attitudes. That's most important.
Also, tani trawachi yona trawachi no da tani ja sha ti tsoya sanso.
So, are there any questions? Because the time is already up. But if you have any questions, feel free.
For verse 13. I think I understand where Shantideva is going with all this, but doesn't that contradict the Bodhisattva vow to do anything you can to make sure others don't harm? Because if you're saying, go ahead and kill me or whatever, it sounds like a direct contradiction to the Bodhisattva vow to not let others harm.
Ja, kon karisi se daki luchen tamchela ludi chide
shinze
takto södang me ba
taspa chaga che person.
Die Kesi ra jetzt shiwala da sonsosana mishemba susurang du seba la sopa di dang jangchu sempa da jangchu sempe dompa dang kewa marewe jangchu sempe dompa nanglola mishemba susurang matia nutse matia chirura so
ta ko soso jang che ta ta ja khore ta jang soso no chen rawo chi chen jambal dekhe chi chung yo na jike res choro dekhe te yon vi che ngal no se pena ni cha jin ni chon na sa ti li cha yo na ngi chol cha jing gi zo ning ki ma jin ni cho na sa cha ko na ning ki ma jing gi yes te no ji choro ngal jik pa shi ni cho dekhe yo na choro ngal jik pa shi shos choro Jukpa. Ani choro nga se na cho deki yo na choro deki ti che nga se shos. Chancho se bi domba yo se jasi jawala kororo. Ke semchang che ti choro kar deki yo yo na ngi tang yen ze ater.
di jangsu sempa dan kewa mare.
Chancho sem tang ge ki maro chancho sem ge nyamle yo san rawo ta tanda kororo. Kes pa non se che yo mara. Pa sho tsan do se che ni choro kepo yo na de reze wore.
So apparently it's not contradictory to the Bodhisattva vow. We can also think of
Dosa dinandere semchang koro karan do pa yo na ngi te naje che ama to ngi tel ngogor che me se ate no dinater mi jamba chi tsashi na pa shi kuro ngi tsawani ni che me se koro kar che samna che jo da ngi gur du shi ngi zo gom che chos
it's Shantideva writing as a bodhisattva, and he would never harm others obviously, but he says it's fine if others feel happy by beating him or whatnot. But also he gave an example of if it's of benefit to someone to give one to donate blood or to donate some organs, if that's healing or
in this sense.
in that
Is that kind of what?
That's also part of offering one's body.
Yes.
Can be organs or blood, whatever others need.
Yasi jawala ke passe yakto gu dongu la go mar tset kar chine te chance te bi domba se yasi jawala inde ko domba ngi achi o mar koro par zogom che de gora kar china
but he said Shantideva as a bodhisattva he has patience. He would never harm or retaliate.
I was thinking on the other end, not that Shantideva would harm, but that Shantideva would stop others from harming him because that's bad karma for them.
Also true.
Killing, taking the blood of a bodhisattva.
True.
Or being a bodhisattva, if that was the sense.
In the case ra janchu kasa getsi shiwala janchu sempa yinta in case ra mi shemba kong getsi shiwala nutse chiba ina kong janchu sempa yinsang korang sumige wele shishimo sang
re to ya bunda re da ta ki tandi chena ke zogum chege yeze yore mangate tadi machia kana thogo yo maro 타카르세 거 미치고 니께 제게제나 네 가토고 요마로 가토고리 네 가토고 메송상이 구르기 접고 제게요서 나가말로 치치요 갸르보치 미치 세리스 교센지 그 트랜스존소바 마이라리스 치치나 게존도 코요 트랜스존소바 마이나 야즈니 라바카이트 제리스 다 교센지 내가 트랜스존소바 마이니 라바카이트 제야 카린지 그 컴바 칼라제트 제자리스 다 갸르보트 소코 제용고리 제오나 게 조금치니가 조금치니 디엔지니 조금치니 데고리 야시자라 코튼디 세니 땀니 좀 레소나 게 조금치니 데게제고리 마토 파쇼르 세로치타 로치다 제요 마르와
Mare, Casey.
나 게시 코세니 타tum니 렙소나 조금치게 라고레 마토
Dorje tapsi 지금 말be.
테 탑시 메르와 탑시 제토사레 간친 도고리 도모토가 모토가 같은디 레용고라 까모토가 같은 범르지 갸니 코토리오나 같은 걸 찍바견이 마자케 구르기엔세 안로치리 파쇼코트 셈창가 컨트롤가 소 카토야메야 셈창가 컨트롤 다 교바 마랍탕가 소 카토고리 리라오 까마톰나 타라 조금 체기제 데
아니 둠디 낭로라 디 게포틱.
갸르보치 조금 체기 세랍셰 타코 세자나 코 조금 치니 컨트롤 말라레 라고 Lapachichi, Combat, Kosopogon, Tanda control on Mare, or they not then as Cherry Laur. Garbolta di Bayokira, Laki Mara, Kato Mara. They got the Coson.
Ja, so in Konsupa, Shibogam Gyapguri, and
Dordina K Guru Laur, Pasho control, Pasho Joba Maratangaso Kato Ayomara.
Yeah.
Kamatoni Leona K Guru in Laur. Dordina.
Anyway, so what Geshe says in brief is that it might not be possible really to prevent others. If someone else intended to kill him or harm in any way, it might not be possible to avert that in some way. So, and as a great Bodhisattva, he would have that patience to endure that.
Just to kind of let go of the clinging.
Pe deposijant. Michik mendaji kinitiringa setroche ungi lapal mendaji ona. Kinga setroche ona kinga setroche at kato maringi passe to na ngi passe mi kursu se chukuye se wor. Dodena. Nashina ndigire kinga passe ga mesi atri. Passe to passe at tsusi ani gno ninga ngarusha at damja kai passe ga mesi atri.
Yeah. Or, I mean, if I would say here with a gun and there's another person with a gun and trying to shoot, but I from my side would not shoot that other person to prevent him from killing me.
Or maybe even like if there's a gun person here and the Bodhisattva would put their body in front of the other person.
Yeah, for example, yes, I guess.
Me passe lu ngarusha chukuye se.
Yeah.
Ke guru degi se. Tin rori to anda.
And Geshe also shared a story. It's a story from one of these sutras, from a king who also had great patience. Apparently, he was attacked by someone who then, I don't know if he wanted to